Welcome to Making Awesome Chapter 33. You see some unfamiliar faces if you're watching us on YouTube, and if you're listening audio only, click the YouTube link in the description of this recording because there's going to be a lot of cool stuff that's going to be showed off. This one's absolutely one that you don't want to miss watching. But I'll make sure that our guests do a phenomenal job of describing what you're looking at, hopefully in ways that we all understand it. But my name's Grant. I am joined by Alan of Pyro0ball PCBs and Peter of Haptic Solutions. I know none of our normal people, but Thomas is recovering from his second shot. Tad is moving houses, and Peter is busy. The other Peter, not this Peter. Peters. Peter Milling is not here. So anyways, guys, Peter, Haptic Solutions, Peter, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us what you do, what Haptic Solutions is, so our viewers, watchers, listeners out there in the multiple tubes of the internet know who you are and what you do, man. Talk to us.
Yeah, hello. My name is Peter Sassman. I'm president and co-founder of Haptic Solutions. And I have a passion for kind of filling in the gaps in the senses for virtuality, whether that's scent, touch, taste, otherwise. And many of you may have seen the Linus Tech Tips video where they had the smell-o-vision device back in November, December. So that is the Cilia, and actually going to be showing off some parts maybe a little bit later for that. And essentially it wafts you smells to enhance your experience. So you could be, in a cozy cabin somewhere smelling nice pine scents and the crackling fire, or you could be facing off against a zombie horde and smelling rotten flesh and burning gasoline,
Hopefully not real gasoline.
Yeah.
That I'm only imagining a house smelling like rotten flesh and gasoline, and I'm like, well, that's just a normal party in Miami, so that's not too bad.
Yeah, and we were developing some other things too, like variable force feedback haptic gloves to allow you to actually get your hands into the simulation or the matrix, to be able to feel how the shape of items are, how hard they are. We'd like to take that and the smell and maybe be at CES 2022.
Yeah, if this country can get a hold of this virus.
Yeah. Pending the virus kind of passing over.
Absolutely. Alan, talk to us about Pyroball PCBs. What you do and what you're known for.
Okay, so many of you may have heard of me before, but I'm guessing most haven't, which is I work around a bunch of different things in the 3D printing community, primarily of which is this, my little auto bed leveling sensor called the Piezo. Now, this thing is basically an upgrade for traditional piezoelectric auto bed leveling sensors, in which the traditional ones, you have to kind of fiddle with it. You have to really tweak the little knobs on to make it actually tuned right and things like that. Whereas this one, what this does is make sure that all the electronics portion of it is easy as pie. You just you make sure that you have a piezo plugged into one end of it. You have your connection back to the board, and it can be given all kinds of different input voltage ranges, and it still spits out the same clean, easy signal that your controller is after. You don't have to worry about things causing it any kind of losing myself here.
It's fine.
Things like your bed kicking on might with traditional units cause the readings to get either less or more sensitive because the voltage levels have changed. Where this one has an onboard microcontroller, it senses all the various different aspects of the circuit and makes sure that they're balanced while it's doing its sensing. In addition to that, it also has a programming interface. So you can actually hook this back to your 3D printer's controller and have it adjust settings on the fly. So if you needed to have more or less sensitivity for a particular type of bed, or if you wanted to do a reduced amount of sensitivity while it's moving in a particular direction, that kind of thing, you can do that all through this. There's lots of other applications people have come up with for that as well. But that's the basic long and short of it. But Pyro-ball PCBs is just my sort of personal outlet for PCB designs that are open source and for everybody to use. So that's where that whole business came from.
Man, I missed the mark on that when I was, calling you guys in, telling people about you. You both run open source companies.
Yeah.
Because the
open source in our case.
Yeah, Peter, I think, what is it? The software is not fully open source. What is not open source on your system yet?
The PC side software is open source, and the 3D models are open source. The only part that isn't currently is the firmware and the board design. But everything else is open source, so you can make your own Cilia. You just have to buy the board to make it, or buy the kit and build it if you don't want to, source all of the parts.
But the boards aren't too bad, though. How much are you selling the boards for currently? Price is subject to change.
Yeah, currently 100, but yeah, it's subject to change. Yeah,
and that's not bad. To add another sense into VR is kind of ridiculous, and I've had the opportunity to use one of the earlier Cilia Developer Kits. A friend has one, and it is one of those weird things, and it's similar to using VR for the first time. Your body doesn't know what to do. It's like, this is not normal. I'm used to just smelling whatever's in the house. I'm not used to smelling the pine trees, the water as I'm hearing it. There's all this extra involved, and I kind of like it.
That's what your brain is enjoying, is the newness of it, I think, though.
It is.
Yeah. Especially with an experience that usually lacks it, whether that be a 2D game or virtual reality experience or watching a movie.
Yeah, definitely. So I realized there. I did go into what my sensor does specifically, but I don't know how many people actually know what auto bed leveling with Piezos is like.
Let's talk about that. You segued, and I was going to make it, and I'm like, all right, the next thing we need to move into is what the heck is bed leveling? Because remember, a lot of our viewers on YouTube are just getting started. They're people that came from the big Cricket debacle when Cricket just said middle fingers to all of you, and we said, how about no? And they're like, yeah, no, you're probably right. That's the TLDR of the Cricket thing. And so a lot of them, one, may not even know what VR is, but then two, specifically for Alan, auto bed leveling, because it's something that we touched on in our favorite 3D printers under $1,000. One of my big things that a lot of these cheaper printers are missing is freaking auto bed leveling. And I'll tell you, it takes your printing process from being something that's relatively tedious to being something that is quite literally click it and walk away. Caveat, you should not leave printers unattended unless you
watch the first layer.
Minimally watch the first layer, but like don't leave them unattended, especially cheaper printers. Please don't leave them unattended.
When the biggest problem that I found with when you get auto bed leveling working the correct way is that you'll find you have far more increased incidences of blobs or late fail prints.
That's fair. Yeah, there's always something. I mean, literally, and I praise the Prusa Mark III's for being one of the closest printers to a commercial, like, belongs in a home 3D printer. But the part that it's making...
Oh.
Yep.
Not getting a good layer fusion there, maybe.
Oh, okay. And so, to Prusa's credit, the part is 0.45 millimeters thick.
Okay.
So, it is a bit of a challenge and has some overhangs that make it even more challenging. So, but at the end of the day, again, the material's cheap. The 2 hours that I lost on that first failure is what sucks. Prusa uses inductive probes, right?
There's depends on which model you get. The newer ones use a strain relief, if I remember correctly. They use a strain gauge. I might be misconstruing that.
No, they're non-contact probes.
Okay, then they must be using inductive then. So the inductive probes, along with like the opticals and the forget the other one, the capacitative ones.
Well, then there's also
all
the
of those
switch
bed levelings,
probes, the one that actually
touch those too. But
yeah,
the switch probes aren't going to have the issue that I'm about to talk about, which is surface, the type of surface that you have. the type of bed material that you have dictates a lot of what kind of sensors you can use.
Yep.
If you have an inductive sensor, for instance, you can't have a completely glass bed or anything that's non-ferrous. You need something that's magnetic. Same thing with capacitive sensors. Those ones are need a very specific kind of material in order to function properly.
They do.
So the nice thing about the mechanical switch sensors is that they work on everything. But because they're mechanical switches, they're very imprecise. They don't have that really nice precision that you get with the really nice digital things. And that's where the piezo out of bed leveling comes in. Because what a piezo bed leveler does is allows you to use the action of the nozzle touching the bed as the actuation of the trigger. So what happens is the nozzle touches the bed. There's a mechanical action that happens where the nozzle moves upward, which causes a piezoelectric disc to bend. And then that bending action causes a signal to get sent out.
So can you explain what piezoelectric is for those that don't know? Okay,
sure. So a piezoelectric device is something that uses the piezoelectric effect, which is essentially a ceramic material, something that's using quartz crystal or something along those lines, where when it's compressed or bent or deformed in some way, it causes voltage to be generated. So there's a few materials that do this. Most commonly used one is quartz. You can find these type of devices in things like your audio pickups for guitars. The little lighters that you use for starting your gas grill uses a little piezoelectric zapper that makes the spark.
Oh, do they?
Fire go.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a piezoelectric unit, and it's just a really tiny one that hits really, really hard, so you get an extremely high voltage level, which is why you get that big old spark out of it. Now, the piezoelectric sensor that I built uses a very, very low voltage compared to that. In order to get that kind of spark that you see out of a lighter, you need something around the 3 to 1,000 volt range. 300 to 1,000 volt range. In order for my sensor to work, I only need about half a volt.
Whoa.
So it doesn't need a lot.
Your precision can be crazy because the disc, 1, can be small, but 2, doesn't need to deflect all that much.
Exactly. So it doesn't need to deflect any more than like a tenth of a millimeter at most. That's the most it needs.
I'm going to show on screen with my calipers, if I can, what a tenth of a millimeter looks like. I'm going to have to hold the calipers up to the screen, or up to the camera, because of how tiny that's going to be. Yeah, that gap that you see, can you even see light through it? No, probably because there's too much light reflecting, is 0.15. I can see light through it, but it ain't much.
That's only the amount of deflection you need.
Yeah.
Here's the kicker. So I had a guy in my channel yesterday showing his repeatability results, which is there's a function built into Marlin that lets you test how accurate your auto bed level sensor is by basically tapping the same place a bunch of times and then measuring the difference in the measurements. He got my sensor to get to 0.0013 on the repeatability test. That's 1,000th of a millimeter in repeatability.
Dude, air current is going to be an actual factor when you're dealing with that kind of thing.
Now, my sensor can do this because normal piezoelectric sensors, they're very sensitive, like you say.
Yeah.
But because they're so sensitive, they get a lot of noise. Every little vibration on the printer would cause something like that. You nudge the desk, it would cause it to go off. But my sensor has a nifty little trick built into it, which is something I like to call an elastic pull. There's a term in electronics which is a pull up or a pull down, where your default signal is pulled to either the top or the bottom of a voltage range.
5 volts ground or 3.3 or ground.
Yeah, exactly. So I have a little piece of my filtering in the electronics that's a variable pull resistance. So it can be either at ground, it can be up or higher, but it usually is hovering somewhere around 2.8 volt when it is where I find it works best.
Okay.
But either way, at that level, if the signal input from that piezo goes up or down, it gets a variable amount of pull back to where it is here. So it's elastic. The further away it gets, the more it gets pulled up or down or whatnot. Now, what we're trying to find in those signals from the piezo is extremely sharp little spike. Now, a variable pull like this, where it's elastic, is going to pick that up really well, but not the tiny little noisy spikes that you see from all the other movements. So that was the trick that got this thing to work really well. So And so that's what I've been developing for the last 3 years.
It is.
And so how is it installed? How easy is it to install? Is it like behind the nozzle, or?
That's the fun part. So it can be done in any numerous ways, but the only real function that you need to fulfill is that the piezo disc gets bent by the action of the nozzle touch. So those piezo discs can be under the bed, they can be behind the nozzle, they can be on either end of the gantry. There's a lot of ways to handle it.
But you want them to be as close to the nozzle as possible, right? So there's less. You're dealing with less deflection over ranges. So
depends on how. It depends on the surface of the bed material. Like if you have a glass bed, that's not going to deflect very much. So you can use underbed a lot more easily.
That's fair. And you know things like, so you can't see it in my shop, but I have a Taz 6 above me, and that thing uses 4-point physical bed connection. Same thing oddly with the Fusion 3, where it's just it's using the nozzle as the negative side and the bed is positively charged, or the other way around.
Yeah, that's exactly what it's doing. It's the nozzle's positively charged and it's grounding on the bed.
But you know, things they don't account for is like when your bed is heating up, it's warped. When your bed is cooling down, it's warping. Prusa has this exact same issue. It's why the Pinda sensor replaced. So when the Mark III came out, they brought out a brand new sensor called the Pinda sensor that is different from the Minda sensor. The Minda sensor, which oddly this printer has, it's a Mark III, but I replaced the probe because the probe was DOA and I just didn't want to wait. It's a Minda sensor, so when I actually go to run it, I have to bring the sensor down to the bed level and leave it there for a few minutes to get the probe up to the same temp as the bed, because otherwise it gives you really, really poor accuracy. And that's a problem when I'm running a business. Now, the other machines don't have that issue. I could swap out that probe, but it's very much if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's our time-lapse printer. By the way, you will have already seen it, but hey, look, there's the time-lapse for this week.
Sure. Speaking of heat causing bed leveling problems, that is actually something that I get asked about a lot with the piezo sensor. So people are right about this. The piezoelectric effect is suppressed by high temperatures. So if you're doing like something like that's the thing. Pardon?
So if you're doing peak pack or ultim, it might affect it, or
that is more along the lines of if you have a heated chamber. So if a lot of people like to run it around 80 C internally, and that's something that can actually cause some suppression in the signal. However, I have a clever way of solving this, which is that my sensor comes with an adjustable gain. The input to the sensor can be adjusted from its default, which is 3x. So whatever signal it gets in is amplified to 3 times its size. It can go and be pushed down to 2x, or it can be pushed all the way up to 11. So you can really,
it has to go to 11.
Break the knob off.
To 11.
Couldn't go to 10. It's gotta go to 11, baby.
That just happened to be how the math worked out for the resistances, but yes, I left it that way on purpose. I could have changed it if I wanted, but it seemed nice.
So y'all have mentioned 2 ways of where the nozzle actually touches the bed. Your piezo way, you had mentioned like where it actually completes a circuit. The only third way I've heard, and I don't know how this compares to the other 2, is they look for like spikes on the actual stepper motor. Like,
the sensorless homing that Trinamic does. Yeah.
How does that compare to these 2?
Not well.
It's not great.
Not well. Okay.
Yeah, sensorless homing is great for X and Y, assuming your rods and bearings are clean. If you have junk at the end of your rods or at the end of your bearing movement, like most people do, it does create backlash. And so the Prusas have the print failure detection, because all it's doing is it's looking for a spike in amperage on those drivers, and it works great. Actually, I found it's way too sensitive. And so when we have a lot of printers going, the inertia from all the machines moving can cause some of them to actually think they're skipping.
You need to add some more weight to your table.
Well, yeah.
Granite countertop or something.
Yeah.
Am I made of money? Granite countertops over here.
Go to your local scrapyard. I'm sure people are throwing away slabs and shit.
Dude, so I've reached out to local granite shops because that was something I wanted to minimally put granite under each of the machines. I can go get a concrete stone like some people do. I've got Diversitech feet on them right now, and then they're on the shelf. I mean, under the shelf's like 80 kilos worth of filament, and above it is 300 pounds of 3D printers. So the shelf itself has got, you know, almost 1,000 pounds on it, but it still has inertia to it. So what we found is that when they were triggering poorly, because the rails and rods aren't perfectly clean, the machines wouldn't home exactly to the same spot, and you'd end up with a failure print that shouldn't have failed. So actually, I've turned off step detection on all of them until we can get that issue solved. And yes, the answer is to increase the amount of mass. These are all videos that are going to be coming out on our YouTube channel. Speaking of which, if you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave us a like, and if you are looking to get some awesome stuff made, and if you want to add these type of things to your life, if you want to put a piezo sensor, is it piezo or piezo?
Piezo is, I think, the technical term.
I've always said piezo, so I'm sticking with it. Or if you want to level up your VR experience and add some smell, maybe some gloves when they're out. Seriously, this stuff is so cool. You can reach out to everybody here in the podcast. Links to all of our stuff will be in the description down below. You know, and if you had, and I want to get some feedback from people, right? If you had access to a Cilia, what would you do with it? What would you do with a Cilia? And if you had access to Alan's piezo sensors, what would you put them on? And you can't use 3D printers. I want to see what would be some cool things that you would put a piezo sensor on, because I bet there's a lot of people out there that would have, you know, some thoughts here, right?
Well, let me give you a little piece of information about the input and output functions on this. You put in an analog signal, it's going to give you a digital only. You're going to get on and off, and that's it.
Right.
But if you tap into certain traces on my board, it will do funny things with those signals if you're using the programming interface. So that was something I planned on doing for the ERF 2020 before I got canceled. I was going to turn one of my boards into a synthesizer modifier thing, where it was like basically a pedal box for a guitar.
That's
and make
pretty
it
cool.
mess with the signals, because it would demonstrate how my sensor's filtering worked in a more auditory way. So I thought that would be fun.
As long as you do not incorporate a theremin, I'm okay with this. The theremin is truly the worst instrument ever produced. I worked in a science museum many moons ago, and we had a theremin. And
all the kids.
Oh my gosh, there was a certain point where I'm like, sorry kids, the theremin's broken. We can't use it because I have unplugged it, because it would literally give me migraines.
Oh man. Well, you know, we've talked about needing some visuals on this show. We haven't shown any visuals yet. Do you guys want to do some of that?
Yeah, let's do it. Let me switch over to whenever you want to share, go ahead, and I'm going to switch over to our screen share backdrop, and hopefully I don't screw it up.
So I guess I should probably pull up what my sensor looks like.
You should probably have everything ready if you are going to share your screen. Yes,
yeah.
You know, I don't want to see what weird things you all Google in your spare time.
No, I've got it all set and ready to go, along with some random other projects that I had queued up.
Yeah, Peter, if there's anything you want to share when Alan's done, please, you know, we'll allow some screen shares and everyone kind of hang out. We can talk about it, because this stuff is cool, and this may not immediately be what our current viewership wants to see, but I think the maker community and the 3D printing community is going to really like to see some of this stuff from the horse's mouth, as they say.
Yeah. All right.
Also,
so,
Alan, you clearly did not get the black polo memo, and I'm a little bummed about this.
I did not get the black polo memo. No.
We didn't send a black polo memo. It's okay.
This shirt's been coming back from Seattle for a few weeks. Had like a moving container, and I'm glad to finally have the shirt back.
I really gotta get some stuff made up here. For
3D Musketeers.
Yeah. I gotta get something, because we don't have nearly enough cool. We don't have any merch, but we don't have enough merch. I'm
Oh,
just...
I got that thing up for you, by the way.
Yeah, I can see it. I'm just making
sweet.
sure that I'm not showing things I shouldn't show. I think we're okay. So you are cut off right at the bottom of Fusion, so before it goes to your Windows bar,
okay.
and then at the top right.
There's nothing unsafe down there. It's fine.
Well, I think I just lost that print. Dang it. Oh well.
Ah.
All right, talk to us.
Okay, so right now what you're looking at is my sort of latest design for the Creality style printers. This is basically supposedly a universal mount where the piezo electric disc that I use is sandwiched in between this white and this blue plate.
Okay.
And the nozzle gets attached to the white plate here. When the nozzle touches here at the bottom, that little hinge there causes this entire apparatus to rotate backward toward the plate. And that causes the disc to get actuated. So let me take that sucker off really quick. And somebody requested a Hero-Me mount, so I went and re-engineered it in Fusion properly instead of the freaking Tinkercad the guy was using.
Oh man, don't we love it when people send us Tinkercad models? I need to go check on that print.
There. All right, so you can see on the base plate here, I've just got a little mounting dealy bop. So this is a PCB that I designed that has, it's just basically a carrier for the disc itself. Because with traditional piezoelectric printer, or like a piezoelectric sensors that have been used in the past, you generally have to drill a hole through it in the middle, and then your filament would go through, and it would be sort of sitting around your filament path. I like to do it this way, where you get it's sort of offset from whatever it is that you're doing. It's out of the way. It doesn't cause any weirdness with trying to make an assemble. This you can just plug in with a nice DuPont connector instead of having to solder anything. And it's a standard connector. It's a standard mount, so everybody could feasibly design around that without too much trouble.
And of course, all this stuff is available. So as people are learning to design in Fusion 360, of which they can watch our live streams, we just had... Well, our second live stream will have already come out by this time, but we are recording this prior to that live stream, so... Yeah, you can do stuff like this. You at home, in your car, wherever you might be, listening, watching, whatever. You can do crazy, cool stuff like this.
Sure. Yep.
You just have to take the time to learn it.
Absolutely. And it helps having somewhere you can set up a breadboard. But so yeah, I did actually also make an E3D mount. This is the first one I did. So we're using a 40 millimeter fan here because this is actually a piece that I'd previously designed for my old mounts, and I just reused it. But so you get a fully enclosed air path that doesn't have any downwash to the part. All the hot air gets spit out the sides and up instead of down toward your part, which is nice. I try to do that with all my various different designs to keep the hot air away from your stuff, no distortion, all that goodness. So then I decided I need to look into doing something for deltas. So I came up with this.
Whoa. Okay, so you literally just have a hot end, right?
Here,
with 3 discs.
Yes.
Oh, so you can pick up not just did it touch, but you can pick up in what direction did it touch.
I could, but it's not currently set up for that. Right now, these are all paralleled together, so they're all acting as if they're one sensor.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just amplifying the signal. Pardon?
Is this going on a Delta printer?
This is designed for deltas.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Deltas are notoriously tough to level because of the way that the end effector works and the way that their beds, even though they're round, and we'll talk about deltas in a future video, I promise. I have a love-hate relationship with deltas. I think they're absolutely gorgeous, but as printers, they are really, in my opinion, really bad for beginners. There are so many little idiosyncrasies about them that if you know what you're doing, make them amazing, because they can run at god-awful speeds. Like, it's stupid fast.
Absolutely.
But man, getting them calibrated sucks.
Just to give you an idea of, let's see, how long was this again? I think this thing is a total of, it's under 85 millimeters in diameter.
85 millimeters is what, 3.5 inches? 3.25 inches, give or take?
Yeah.
75 millimeters is 3 inches, so.
It's about this big.
I was gonna say, is he gonna Rachel Ray it and actually show us one on screen?
I have one somewhere, but Not sure where exactly. It's down in the garage somewhere, I'm sure. But yeah, so it's not big. It's supposed to be really small so that it doesn't have a ton of mass. I mean, you can use this as a reference. This is just like the same kind of connector that you use for an ATX motherboard for the CPU.
They're Molex connectors, right?
Yeah, this is a Molex connector.
Okay.
They're 24-volt input, you know. And then same thing like as my like the little sensor is just the 6-pin input for all the signals. So that's just the Z probe signal I2C bus, and if I also because I had an extra channel handy on my little op amp here, I also recreated E3D's PT100 sensor circuit.
Thermocouple.
Yeah. Well, not thermocouple. This is a RTD thermal sensor, so it's a little bit different.
I thought their PT100 was for their thermocouple.
The PT100 is thermocouple-like in that it's a high temperature sensor, but it's still resistive based. Whereas thermocouples
it's not a thermocouple.
No, it's what is it? RTD's resistance something. Thermal device, resistive thermal device, something like that. I forget what it is, but it's the opposite of an NTC, where as the voltage increases, the temperature is decreasing, or the opposite. Where this one, as voltage increases, the temperature is also increasing. It's just an opposite analog signal, but it's much more precise. And these type of sensors can handle high temperature.
And because you had the space for it, you said, "What the hell? Let's just add it on there."
Yeah, basically, it's like I wasn't using the last channel on the amp, and all this cost me is a few cents in resistors and capacitors.
And what it ends up doing is it gives the user a massive amount of flexibility with how they go about their upgrade path. Because let's be real, if you're adding something like this to your Delta 3D printer, you're probably the type of person that doesn't like to leave things stock. You know, you're the type of person that's got the stanced out Miata on airbags and it's LS swapped in the front yard. It might be on blocks because, you know, it's a stanced out Miata. Mm-hmm. But you're the type of person that likes to work on stuff. And I would love
to take your analogy a little further. In this case, if you were running something that required an RTD sort of system, mm-hmm. then you're going to knock your engine mounts out of place, because this thing only probably handles about 50 watts in terms of the heater. So
now, is that because of the components inside of it, or is it because of that physical connector can only handle
the physical connector in this case? So like if I could probably upgrade that. I haven't finished or finalized this board yet. It's just using standard DuPont connectors.
But let's be real. What percentage of your user base is going to be running 80-watt, 100-watt heaters?
Some people might want a tiny little effector that does that. I don't know.
That's fair.
Leave the options open. If all it takes is like a slightly more expensive connector, I might still go with that.
And see, that's the trick with open source, though, because you're going to open source this board design. It already is open source. I see the open source hardware logo.
It's up on my GitHub. You can go and grab it and mess with it if you want. So yeah.
And so if you did want to add a high temp connector and you as Alan did not offer it to consumers, they could just grab your board, make that change, get them made, and be done.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep. And it's on Creative Commons, so all you got to do is credit me.
Yeah, lulzbot. And so, you know, when we look at this, because and I guess I should say Alan now works with 3D Musketeers as well. So Alan is our lead electrical engineer. So if you are getting a product that needs electrical work done, it's likely being done by Alan, because as you can tell, he knows what he's doing to a level that makes me feel stupid, but in all the right ways.
I'm by no means an industry expert. Like okay, that's not true. I know what I'm doing, but
that's not true.
I haven't
humble.
Yeah, I'm trying to be, because there are people that know more than me. There always are.
You know your shit, but you're not the smartest guy out there.
Yeah.
Bingo. We don't got to beat around the bush here, okay?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not the precision guy over at Intel sitting in the lab with the tiny little needles that goes and drills out the vias and redoes them. You know, that's the kind of guy I wanted to be, but I haven't quite made it.
Yeah. I feel that.
Yeah, I'm very much into the precision and detail stuff. So anyway, the next thing I was going to show, if you've got time, was my new hot swap system. So I was planning on finishing this out pretty soon. but this is something that my users have been requesting for a while, which is the ability to have a tool changer like system where you could change out heads very easily, but also have the piezoelectric system integrated into the main body so that you don't have to have one of those sensors on every single head. Now this thing has these the JST connectors that are pretty common out there, carry a lot of amperage, so you can have a decent amount of connections for your printer or
Right.
your print head. It also locks in using these little levers on the side.
Yeah.
So I kind of designed this sort of like the little wine openers, where these gears on the inside of the tool mount side will just interface with those gears, and these will swing down, and then those actually clamp into these little grooves for them. Yeah, they wrap around the bottom to keep it secure. So not that your print part isn't going to go nowhere. It's staying pretty well put. But on the back here, you'll notice we've got a little sway back bit. That's my fulcrum. So there's a little live hinge. The piezo sits right in between here, and it pokes it when this whole business moved backward, just like before, except it's using a little plastic bit instead of a hinge.
Okay.
And then if you see, we got our little disc sort of sitting here in the back. There we go. It sits in there.
That's really cool. Really, really cool.
And then we got our little our cable. Things.
And forgive me, how do you do those colors in Fusion? Because
well, some of these colors, for instance, came with the models
on your
themselves.
Bodies, because it's corresponding to colors in your history too.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I got materials, physical material.
No. I mean literally on.
Oh, yeah, because of the component.
At the bottom, it's
yeah, I see what you're saying. So yeah, this history is based upon the components. So whenever I'm starting a new piece of this, like I knew I needed to do the base, so I started out with a base component.
Yeah.
I then make subcomponents under that for each subsequent part that I'm creating, and those each get a color assigned to them when I make it.
Do you assign those colors?
Pardon?
Do you assign those colors?
No, it does it automatically.
Okay. I've never seen that, and it's something like, God, it's why I personally avoid components. But yeah, it's actually making it as if you make it a subcomponent, it ticks the boxes that I want. I want all of my history in the same damn spot. I don't want to have to figure out where the hell that history is. And now it's color-coded? Really cool. Holy crap, that's amazing.
Let me show you something really cool. Currently, I have the whole bitch is currently activated. That's why you're seeing all of my history with that color code.
Yeah.
Let me go into one of them. Look at the history. You'll see that almost everything has sort of dropped away, except for where I was interfacing with those other components.
Where you've interacted with other components, yeah.
Exactly. So the history follows each individual component as I'm creating it, and then sticks it in there, and I can go back and forth through it. So yeah, much nicer organization in my opinion.
I learned something new today, and that makes me happy.
So there's one downside to doing this, which is that you kind of have to. Every single subcomponent you have needs its own unique name. So if I need to do any kind of hardware, I'm appending the names with basically a hierarchical number system.
Okay. And
then just naming the hardware based on that hierarchical number system. Makes it really easy.
Yeah.
And then I can toggle the hardware for that specific stuff on and off as well.
Right.
So
that's just cool, man.
Yeah, so you can.
And I know that's like the complete and total geek thing that everybody in this call thinks is cool, the three of us. But I think all of our viewers have just glassed over a little bit.
Probably. So yeah, if you guys want to move on to other things, I'm perfectly okay with that.
No, I think it's cool, right? Because remember, what I think is awesome, what people watching think is awesome, what you think is awesome, what Peter thinks is awesome, it varies so much. Everybody has a different version of what awesome is to them. But that's what makes this industry so cool, is that we're able to say, this is what's cool to me because I like it. I don't have to have a reason. That's what makes this industry good. You know, in my mind, at least. Peter, you're welcome to disagree with me, but I don't think you're going to.
Yeah, so there's one downside to doing this, which is that you kind of have to. Every single single subcomponent you have needs its own unique name. So if I need to do any kind of hardware, I'm appending the names with basically a hierarchical number system. And then just naming the hardware based on that hierarchical number system. Makes it really easy. Oh, did we lose Luger?
Are you muted, Peter?
No.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You were looking around frantically like you were trying to unmute yourself. Sorry.
Oh, no. Sorry. I was opening up Fusion a little bit ago. I was thinking I might see if I could pull up the haptic gloves possibly.
Remember, whatever you show off is out there. So if you're going to open source it, that's fine. But if you're closed sourcing it, might not want to show it off in Fusion.
I should probably mention also, I'm the guy that makes all those 3D, all those socks. 3D printer heads.
Yep. It is because of you that we still run our Lulzbot Taz 6, because good lord, that hexagon hot end basically sucks.
Oh yeah.
Nobody makes socks for it. They're all basically terrible.
Yep. All right, let me pull that sucker up. It was really interesting. Oh man, where did we stick that?
Yeah, I can grab some parts for the glove instead. I don't know if that's any better.
Hey man, whatever you want to show, it's all up to you. It's funny because I found the sock mold the other day because my dumb ass forgot to spray mold release, and they're very much welded together and never coming.
Oh man. At least got to do the soapy water.
Yeah, I've always used Windex as my mold release, but idiot me forgot to do that, and I've got like 24 socks now with the red RTV. And so this is if you want to make your own silicone sock, or you have a unique hot end like a hexagon from Lulzbot that doesn't have socks available, you can download these models, all available online, and you can print the molds yourself, including the inner piece. Put it all together with some screws, put some mold release, fill it with red RTV silicone, and in a couple of hours, you've got yourself a silicone sock, which is pretty damn cool.
Actually, I have some that I did the like what it actually looks like afterward with it. Let me pull one of those up.
We did this one for Brad. He has a copperhead, and of course they don't make a sock for the copperhead. This did it. It is really cool.
Yep. So I actually have a copperhead my own self. I gotta get.
His did not look like that, and I'm guessing because we didn't put it together with enough pressure. There was a ton of flashing that we had to cut off, but...
Oh, yeah, probably that. I usually use a clamp on mine.
Yeah, we didn't have any clamps.
Yeah.
I put a couple of books on top of it and left it.
Yeah.
I was working with what we got, but it came out great. It did exactly what it needed to do, and that's really the big deal. I talked about it in an upcoming video. Get subscribed if you want to see all about an upcoming video about the principles of FDM 3D printing, of which this hot end made an appearance. It's like I probably filmed that video before shooting this podcast. Definitely did. Where we talk about the importance of silicone socks, no matter where you get them from, no matter what color they are. They are awesome, and if you've ever had a blob of death, you will buy silicone socks, or you will make them because you don't want to replace a hot end. Peter, have you ever had a blob of death where it's just like, I'm just replacing this damn hot end, I'm not even trying?
Yeah.
Do I have mine floating around here? I saved one that was just truly epic.
I had one, and it was back when we got our first Mark 3S before I put a silicone sock on it.
Yeah.
And man, I just replaced the whole damn hot end. It was not worth it. It was, and for those that don't know, a blob of death is when you're printing and the print fails, similar to, I believe, what's going on behind me, although that hasn't delaminated. And it'll delaminate, and then the plastic will just kind of start wrapping around the hot end and literally create a blob of plastic. And by the time you've realized what's gone on, it's probably because you left it unattended. It's become a big mass, and what's your instinct? Turn it off, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off. That's not always the best option. You can turn it off, but if you ever want to get that blob off again, you're going to need to heat it a lot to make it come off. And it's a pain in the ass. That's one of the reasons we keep spare hot ends on hand at all times.
Yep.
What's that?
Especially
This.
painful if the filament's like nylon X or something like that.
Oh, well, then you get pissed off because you're spending like $60 on a hot end and you wasted $60 in filament. That's just insult to injury. Oh, we are not.
Sorry, were you asking about me or him?
In regards to what?
What?
I thought you said, what's that?
Oh, yeah, what you had on your
Oh,
screen.
yeah, the thing you were showing.
Oh, okay, yeah. Let me get it back up then. Yeah. Okay. So this was something I designed maybe 2 or 3 years ago. I never actually did anything with it, unfortunately, because I just didn't. I ran out of steam. But this is supposed to be a Wi-Fi enabled wall socket light switch. So it's got a little ESP32 module on the back here and enough outputs on the back here that are tailored for NeoPixel modules that you can run 4 independent strands. So you can
this is
control
an ARGB, so addressable RGB LED
Yeah.
light controller.
with a full LCD TFT on the front and control up to 4 different strands with it.
Now
And it's supposed
that's
to
the
just sit
kind
inside
of
of a white
thing
noise.
that ends up at Linus Tech Tips, just for the pure memes on it.
Yeah, like the people have built stuff like this before. It's not exactly original, but
It's not exactly original. Okay, go to Home Depot and buy one then.
they just cost hundreds of dollars.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Now that's cool. I would use the crap out of that for reasons that are of no importance.
Of course,
Just to do dumb things.
Yeah, no, this is something that you use for if you wanted to do like the RGB trim around the ceiling or like the baseboards, and you want to like have a Christmas tree thing or something like that. Yeah, this is completely extravagant, and that's why I love it.
Awesome.
I believe your company is built off of the sole purpose of because we can. Actually, I think the both of you have companies built off of the sole purpose of because we can. Why did you do this? I don't know, because I can?
Yep. The perfect example of because I can, actually. Hang on, where is it? I know I have it in here somewhere.
Because we can, because it doesn't exist yet necessarily.
There it is.
That's fair.
You'll remember this one, Grant.
Yep.
This is classic because I can thing. The real reason I did this is because I was trying to make a new control box for my CR10 using a laptop fan. Nobody had the model for it, so I went a little bit nuts and made the actual model for it, like with all the impressions on the bottom and everything.
Alan took the time to go hardcore, literally do every bit on this when you probably didn't need all of that detail.
No, didn't, but I did it because I wanted to, and I wanted to make sure it was accurate for the model I was making. So
well, and as basically anybody that's listening or watching us right now knows, once you get in it, you know, in for a penny, in for a pound, am I right?
pretty much.
Although you, sir, said in for a penny, in for a ton.
Pretty much. Now I'm currently doing the same thing with Brad's new heat cooler.
Yeah,
So
Brad is a staff member of ours. If you're wondering who the hell he is, go back to episode 10, where we talk about Brad and his wish. I apologize ahead of time for the crappy audio. That was my first time using OBS. Sorry. But Brad is building a custom computer, and Alan sold him a really awesome CPU cooler. Sans fans. And instead of Brad waiting to get it, taking some measurements, making a kind of a jank thing, or doing what all the rest of us do, which is use zip ties to hold a fan on. No. Alan decided that he was going to model the entire heatsink with all the little thickness of all the fins. And I know you really only had to do one, and then you could pattern it out.
I had to do 3, actually, because of the way that these work. These are separate components that are all, like, jimmied together.
Nobody does this. But you know what? I have to appreciate the hell out of it, because it shows your attention to detail, and it's not common to see a lot of makers go through that attention to detail. Certainly I don't do it, because my personal products are all like, does it work? Yeah. Does it look okay? It gets the job done. It's the same thing I tell myself every morning. You don't got to be pretty to be effective.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's how I've taken my route of 3D modeling. that's why Grant doesn't do a lot of stuff for clients when it comes to 3D modeling. That, and I also don't have nearly any of the degrees that Alan has. And so what are we looking at? I know what we're looking at, but can you explain to our viewers what we're looking at right now?
Absolutely. This is the actual the board design for my Piezo.
Okay.
That's this little bad boy right here. And this thing is it's 40 millimeters long, it's 15 millimeters high, it's tiny. So like there's a lot of like pretty dense stuff going on in here. But the fun stuff actually happens in the circuit diagram. So this is the actual filtering circuit and all that stuff. I'm not going to try and bore you guys today with it because I'm sure that I will glass everybody over if I get into it. But this right here.
Well, like I'm the only one that on this call, I'm the only one that doesn't know basically what I'm looking at. As for the viewership, the two of you are basically the only ones that know what you're looking at right now.
Sure. Well, either way, if there's any electrical engineer people out here or people that want to get into electrical engineering, please feel free to jump over to my channel. I'd be happy to explain how all this stuff works. It's a good primer on getting into how op amps operate.
Yeah, both of you actually have Discords, don't you?
Yeah, both of us do, I think, right?
I will need links to those so we can put them in the description as well, so we can put people into your Discords if they want to hang out and be able to talk with you guys.
Absolutely. I'm always up around, well, not always. I'm around quite frequently, but I'm always up for talking about how things work, if people need design help. I love helping people make their dreams a reality, just like you do, Grant. So.
Well, and that's why bringing you on to 3DM just made sense. What's up?
You're using the op amp in like basically I think, is there just like basically three-way? Like you're using it as the comparator, the voltage follower, and the amplification, like all three of those.
Yeah. Yep, and
also it's the same op amp on all three of them, right? It's just how you place the resistors around it.
Exactly, it's a quad channel op amp, and like I said, the last one I wasn't using it for anything, so I went and stuck the PT100 on there.
Most people would say, "Oh, I have a spare channel. That's cool." You're like, "F that! I'm gonna make sure that I have, every channel used because I can."
Might as well.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's in approximately the right location to use for the particular purpose I found for it. So,
hey, can't complain.
I'm using all different kinds here. We have our amplification stage where again we're taking it from that minimum of 2x, possibly going all the way up to 11x, depending on how many of these resistors get activated per the user. These ones are actually using a basic digital to analog converter, or DAC, which is I'm getting a PWM, pulse width modulation. It's just it's a square wave sort of signal that then gets pushed through this resistor and these two capacitors, and it makes it smooth out to a straight line as a solid specific voltage instead of a bunch of up and down lines, basically. And that's how I do that elastic pull as I was talking about. Same thing for the comparator is I'm using another one of those basic DACs as the set point for the comparator. So when that signal that we're after goes above that comparator voltage, that's when the output happens. So
that's just so cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. And it's funny because I look at it and say, I don't really understand half the shit I'm looking at. But what I do understand is your passion. And passion is such a big deal. You can find any company to make stuff for you. You can find any company to work with. But if you find people that are passionate, that's really what matters at the end of the day. Anybody can make cool stuff. You, out there, can make cool stuff.
Absolutely. Anybody.
But you gotta be passionate or you burn out really fast and then you never pick it back up. And I'm looking at a lot of you that had a hobby that you started, probably spent a fair bit of money on, and just forgot about it. I'm calling out a lot of people right now.
Well, labor of loves are something that it takes a lot of investment in. And if you have other things that you want to invest your time in, that's perfectly fine. But if you find that this is something that excites you, dig into it. Remember, we don't all start out as good as this. We have to build up to it. It took me, from the point I picked up a soldering iron. It was 2009 is when I picked up a soldering iron for the first time.
Oh wow, I picked up soldering iron way earlier than you did.
Okay, but the thing is that that act captured me, and I stuck with that one simple act of picking up the soldering iron and then messing with electronics, and I stuck with it for almost the entirety of the last 10 years, 12 now.
It's been a minute or two.
Yeah, so like if you're really passionate about it, if you find yourself enjoying it, then it's easy to put that amount of time in.
There is no replacement for passion. There just isn't. Yeah. I want to give Peter some time to show off what he's doing too. Peter, do you need to share your screen at all, or are you just gonna talk to us on screen?
I could do maybe a little bit of both.
It's up to you, dude. Let me know. That way I can just change between our backdrops.
We're talking about ESP32s and stuff. That is kind of where I'd like to go with the board that actually goes inside the Cilia, because right now it's PIC based. Basically the core of the Cilia is it has control for fans to do variable smell, and then also like RGB LEDs, neopixels, like you're using to actually make it a little bit more colorful. Yeah. But right now it's kind of just USB based over USB to serial or a UART. But yeah, I'd love to at some point in the future move it to using a ESP32 on the board so that it can talk over Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, just to make it more flexible, and also to talk with some of the modern standalone headsets like the Quest, or that when you were mentioning VR, that's probably the one that people are starting to hear about more and more, is the Quest headset. I think it sold more than all the other headsets combined at this point.
Yeah, it's the only one that has its own. It's basically just running a basic Android on it, isn't it? Something like that.
I think basically they're running some sort of Android.
So it's like Google Cardboard variant, or I've never used. I've used the Vives, I've used Oculus, but I've never used the Quest. Before.
Yeah, the Quest would be like a higher end standalone, and recently they announced like 120 hertz refresh rate, and then wireless tethering to the computer and all this stuff that's going to be unlocked in software. Wow. So yeah, it's pretty crazy. I don't think you can do both simultaneously. You're either doing 120 hertz or you're doing wireless tethering, but still, it's amazing.
It's hard to push that amount of data over the waves.
Yeah, and since we're talking a lot about 3D printing, this is kind of the big main shell of the Cilia. So that board you saw kind of goes in the bottom, and the fans get mounted in the back. And then in the front of the unit, there's some magnets that go in, and a face plate sticks on the front. And this can be like laser etched with whatever design. So like those of you who saw the Linus Tech Tips video, there was like a little LTT logo lasered onto the front. And then various little slide in. I was using acrylic, but now I'm using PETG, which is more acid resistant. It's more durable. But slide in, and the bottles can either sit on top, or in one variant the bottles can even hang down, and as the air blows over the kind of membrane fabric type surface, it carries some of those scent particles out to the person wherever they're doing VR or watching a movie or just playing a 2D game.
I love it for movies. To me, that not everyone can handle VR. It is because it is very much a sensory deprivation thing. A lot of people get motion sick, and of course, just go to YouTube and look up VR fail videos, and you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But having that extra bit of depth in a movie, combined with having some bass kickers on a couch, some tactile transducers to literally make the couch shake, on top of fans for airflow, like literally you can have controllable fans. That to me brings a lot of what you get out of a movie theater. I know you don't get all that out of a movie theater, but you get that because the screen is so big. There's so many watts worth of audio. It's a visceral experience, and that can bring it into the home, because a lot of us don't want to freaking go out anymore. Apparently, my local movie theater was closed for 2 years, and I had no idea because I don't go to the freaking movies.
Right.
Like, I
Yeah.
didn't know. I'm like, oh, it was closed. Okay.
Well, there are still extroverted people that do that, but okay, so you can't go through all of those ways of enhancing a visual experience at home without talking about bias lighting.
Oh,
What?
yeah. Bias lighting.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So RGB bias lighting that maps to the video at hand as well. So
Yeah.
Who had
there's
the TV
there's an
that
open
did
source
that?
project called Hyperion that's been doing this for years now. Usually runs on a Raspberry Pi. You get a little USB capture device and an HDMI splitter. It actually tracks the video coming into your screen and then maps that to the LEDs around the outside trim of a TV. So it was emulating like the Philips Ambilight from way back
That's
in
what it was.
2005,
Yeah.
2006 grade kind of days. And it's not cheap to do because of the cost of the LEDs, but it's getting so much easier to do nowadays as far as software is concerned.
Well, like those addressable RGB LEDs are not that expensive anymore if you buy them straight out of like AliExpress. By the way,
Yeah.
Alan, I have a cart that I need you to review because
Oh.
I'm going to be doing some stupid RGB projects. Video coming soon. If you want to see me build the 3D Musketeers logo and have it be fully addressable RGB, and if we can do it on stream, I'm going to allow people to control it while we're hanging out on stream. Maybe we'll have one hanging like down there, and we'll allow people to control it while we're on stream hanging out.
Twitch plays RGB.
More or less, but something that we can do from YouTube, because of course we're going after the YouTube market. Maybe, you know, similar to some of the devices that are active from donations. Like if someone subscribes, it'll do something. That's a talk for another day. Something where I can dig my teeth into and say, this is a fun business expense. I want to learn. Because out of the three of us on this call, I am the least qualified to talk about this shit, which is hilarious. The two of you have successful businesses selling really interesting stuff to people. My business is all about telling the story of those people. You know, you all make whatever they're doing a little bit easier, a little more interactive, a little more interesting. We're the ones that are writing that story that gets them to that point of where they're saying, I need this to be cooler. So it's interesting because there's so much overlap between us. Like, you know, Peter, you do 3D printing for all your Cilias. The cases are 3D printed. You know, Alan clearly does a lot with 3D printing. He was showing us 3D printer stuff. And if you don't know by now that I do 3D printing, you have likely found the wrong channel. I don't know. It might be 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm sorry that you went down this rabbit hole. Hey, if you like it, get subscribed, because we do cool shit like this all the time.
Yep.
And you've been here for over an hour hanging out with us. But, you know, it is so interesting to me to see how much overlap there is, right? You know, Peter, you're looking at adding that ESP32. And I remember you telling me this, I'm like, oh my God, you have to meet somebody. And
Yes.
funny enough, it's happening live on our podcast, which is hilarious.
Yeah.
You know, every product that we worked on with Alan, he's like, not putting ESP32 in this.
Not every
I
project.
had an Arduino, nah, it's having an ESP.
Something if you hang around me long enough, you'll also come to learn that I don't like ESP32s for anything that requires real time because they have squishy clocks.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, they're ESPs are really, really nice pieces of kit, but like anything that's cheap like this, they've got their downsides, right? And they can be pretty serious.
Yep. But you really got to know how to handle them.
And
yeah, it's like throwing around a big ass Corvette. It's got a huge engine and can do a lot, but if you don't modulate your foot on the pedal, it's just gonna spin out.
Well, not the new C8, because that's a mid-engine baby. Now all the weight's in the middle.
See, I use that analogy as somebody who doesn't like muscle cars.
That's fair. Yeah. I'm like, well, yeah, the C7, you give it more than about 20% throttle on a U-turn, and that back end is going crazy. But the new C8s are actually pretty good. That's why they're garnering prices like a Lamborghini Huracan for a domestically produced Corvette. I don't know about you.
Oh, I mean, with quality comes price.
What's up?
We're gonna grab a box real quick.
Yeah, man. Good.
with some of the glove parts.
Show us.
Oh, please.
I don't know about you though. Like, there's part of me it's like I love a Huracan just for the Lamborghini, but then I'm like, but the service cost. The service cost on a Corvette, dude, you can change your own oil on a Corvette. There's really no big deal about it. It's just it's an old school-ish LS/LT motor, whereas Huracans are all this Italian stuff that I don't understand.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's all the same principles. They just have a lot of fancy whistles and stuff, I'm sure.
But yeah, those whistles cost a lot of money.
I think the thing that would turn me off if I was handed a Lamborghini would be the insurance.
Probably. All right,
it's
Peter.
Probably as much as a car payment by itself.
That's fair. Peter, you got a glove. Show us what you got.
Yeah, I don't know if it's best to show some of the parts first, or maybe show kind of what the 3D model looks like and then show the parts.
Let's see the 3D model first so people can see what it should look like, and then let's move into the actual glove.
Gotcha. So let me see if I can share that. Share screen. Share fusion. Okay. Is that sharing okay?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, so yeah. So this is kind of the, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to rotate without a proper mouse here. But this is kind of the backpack portion of the haptic gloves. So in here we have some actuators with sensing.
I spy a DC buck converter down there.
What?
I said I spy a DC buck converter down there.
Yeah, PWM, or taking PWM in and then putting out a voltage between 0 and 12 volts.
Yeah.
We have battery.
I love that you're using the Black & Decker batteries. That's great.
Yeah, we're not knockoff ones. And then we have going from the I think it's 20 volt down to like the 12 volt. And then internally another one to go from the 12 volt to the 5 volt. But then like Raspberry Pi and TNC 4.2, I think. Sure. Basically the TNC to handle all the analog inputs from the sensing for how the fingers are closing. Yeah. And then sending that to the Raspberry Pi to go wirelessly to the computer. So in the simulation, it can start to close your virtual fingers. And then as you collide with those virtual objects, sending back a hardness value for each finger, which can then send out a appropriate PWM to the buck converter to apply the appropriate strength, pulling back on strings through Bowden tubes to be able to feel those hard and soft objects. And
it's the difference between something like this that's made out of TPU that's squishy, but also understanding how much squish there is. So it doesn't feel like I'm holding a kitchen sponge. It feels like I'm holding like a piece of soft rubber versus like, grabbing a brick.
So if I deactivate that, so then we can go to the kind of the top. So yeah, basically all the buck converters will push into another board underneath them. And these are, and actually I can show that box right there. Yeah. Basically, these are just motorized audio sliders.
Okay.
Yeah. And then little, these are like, I want to say it's 2 millimeter.
There's a little worm gear on there, isn't it?
What?
There's a little worm gear on there, right?
No, actually, it's just like a little belt with two, like one geared wheel and one idler wheel.
No kidding, it's a little belt drive. I was going to go with Alan that it was going to be some sort of like small worm drive. Little tiny Bowden connector?
Wow. Yeah, little tiny Bowden connector for 4 millimeter outer diameter, 2 millimeter inner diameter. And so the idea is all these will collect together at like a larger Bowden tube. And then break back out at the hand.
Yeah, I see it.
Kind of like the screen with the Raspberry Pi.
Yeah.
The touch screen.
Oh yeah.
Like some of the power.
I might have to bum those battery models off you, by the way.
And then here, this is kind of like an early prototype of the Blob. I want to change it to where these are actually adjustable with cams instead of being screwed down. But yeah, basically just string and Velcro on going to each finger.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna stop your sharing,
And
Peter, so people can see a larger version of you.
oh,
Of you showing
sorry.
off. I
Okay,
got you.
were you able to stop it?
Yep, I can
Oh,
do it on my
okay.
side.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I'll go to the models of the two different glove designs.
Mhm.
But
You're
basically a
using Lego in
large
there, aren't you?
what oh well Lego inspired anyways. These are tapped. And I need to send cut send because they could make these a lot faster than I can on my little mill.
Hmm.
They can just knock these out and send them to me, and then I can just tap the aluminum. But yeah, so yeah, these will be cam adjustable instead of screwed down.
Oh, so
And
you can get
yeah,
the right
they're
finger length, right?
yeah.
Mm.
The only thing is I need to add like maybe one of those new Vive trackers or something close
Ah.
to yeah to actually track where the hand's at and oriented. And from what I understand, I might even be able to use that for like some communication if I run some wires to it. So that's a possibility as well.
That's so
By the
cool,
way,
dude.
if Billy hasn't seen that yet, you should show her. She's gonna love it.
I think she may have seen it like and she mentioned like Zach stuff. So I went and checked out Zach Friedman's channel.
Mm.
He's got some data gloves that are pretty cool.
Man, that is awesome. With those
Yeah, should
the smelly the smell thing you got, where does that actually sit? Is that like something that would sit on your desk, or is that like head mounted or something,
sits in
or is
front
something
of
on
you.
your chest?
Yeah, so for the smell, it can either sit under your monitor, or if you're doing VR, it actually can go on a quarter 20 mount, so like on a tripod.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it can sit kind of at the edge of your VR space, blowing scent inwards.
All right.
It is just I can't describe it, and I think the LTT video does a really good job of describing it and kind of showing off what it's possible, because Minecraft has a variant that works with it, and you know
Ooh.
that's going to be something that most people know, right? Either you've played Minecraft, you've heard of the game, you know what it is. It's probably
Yeah.
the most successful startup video game company in the world that then sold to Microsoft for an obtuse amount of money many moons ago, and
Mm-hmm.
now they have all these mod supports, and one of them is the Scent VR, correct?
Wait, say again? Oh, so I made a Minecraft Forge mod, so you can smell different biomes. So as you transition between the biomes, it toggles which smell is playing, and so that was kind of thrown together for the Linus Tech Tips video.
Oh,
Like to use the same smells as the Adventure Climb VR game because those were the scents they had, but like I'd love to work together with like some people who would be passionate about it to like actually add like appropriate smells for each of the biomes because you're so there'd probably be maybe two versions, or it wouldn't have to be two versions, but like two ways of experiencing it. So you can add more than six smells to an experience. So even though the Cilia has 6 slots, you can use more than one Cilia simultaneously.
Oh.
So you could have a basic set of 6 smells that covers all the biomes, and then you could have a more in-depth set of smell, like one for each biome. And so if people had more Cilias, then they could experience more scents as they go around Minecraft. And maybe if we could get interrupts for more things like the explosion of a creeper or that, then we can, have gunpowder smell for that, or other kind of events within Minecraft triggering smells instead of just doing it based on biome.
because you have over 1,000 scents available on your website, right?
Yeah, so well, not quite 1,000 yet, but we are buying from a company who has 1,500 plus smells, and we're looking at several other shops that provide more interesting smells. And over time, we want to get all of those into our shop so people can buy the scent bottles with those various scents. So the grand target would be we pretty much have thousands of different smells people could choose from.
Which is so cool. Like, just
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
cool to me that I can, have smells like that available to me. And it doesn't just have to be for your for your Cilia, because you and I were talking. You said, yeah, we actually sell a lot to people that are doing
tabletop, home theater, etc.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Imagine like a Lord of the Rings marathon.
A good D&D controller for it. Currently, people are just using the control panel, but there could be like a D&D skinned one with some extra features.
Oh, that would be. Oh man, D&D with smell. I don't know.
That's what people are doing.
I'm seeing. I think that's going to depend on your dungeon master if they're going to be any good or if they're going to be absolute dicks and take you to scenarios that just suck all the time.
Junk everywhere.
Sort of adjacent, but another good use case would be like escape rooms.
Definitely. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. I need to find an escape room that wants to do that.
You know what, Peter? Why don't I get you in touch with the gentleman that built the, according to Escape Authority, the #2 escape room in the nation.
That'd be awesome. Yeah.
They recently sold. It was Imagine Escape Games here in Tampa. I know the couple personally because they're customers, and they're very good friends of mine. They live literally 5 minutes away, so we used to hang out. We haven't done much of that, but we used to go hang out and play board games at their house. The things that he did, did he ever incorporate smell? I don't think so. There were a couple of rooms that I was not allowed to do because I was so involved in the building of the room that I knew how everything worked. But like one of their rooms, I kid you not, used RFID tracking tags on items. There was a part of it that utilized a ball to hit a sensor, ones that required you to learn and interpret Morse code. I seriously put a ton of effort into it. Arduinos all out the wazoo in these rooms, and they were gorgeous. And it was a husband and wife team. Husband Mike did all the hard coding, and the wife Haley did all the office stuff. She built a killer team of people that gave a shit, which, let me tell you, that's hard to find. But and just people that they created such an experience. It wasn't just about the room, it was about the story and the games that they had. And man, putting smell in that, that's cool. Yeah. But from working with them long enough, if you can't make it bulletproof, it will not survive an escape room. People broke things all the damn time.
Yeah, it's not their junk.
Well, it's that, I bet there's something in this book, and they're ripping on the book. They got to a point where they knew what people would try to do, and they'd have to go over the loudspeaker and say, stop that. It's not a clue. Then someone's like, well, wait, they're telling us it's not a clue. It must be a clue. No, it's not a clue. Stop breaking the damn room. But, I mean, he's that kind of guy that I think because he doesn't have 3D printers yet. I feel like that's only a matter of time. But if he had 3D printers, I consider him both an interesting individual and incredibly dangerous. Because his mind is one of those that just goes. Similar to both of you guys, where you really want to do something and you don't give a damn what happens. You're doing it. And I do that sometimes. I've calmed down a little bit just because I don't have the time to flush out things. Like, I want to get back into building Tesla coils. And actually, it's from your Discord, Peter, that I'm getting motivated by all the wrong people to build Tesla coils again. And I'm like, but if I had the right target on YouTube, I would do a Tesla coil because I'd film the whole damn thing. But I don't think our current YouTube audience would enjoy me talking about Tesla coils. They're like, what the hell is a Tesla coil? Then I show them what it is, and they're like,
just play cool music with it.
Oh, shit. Well, okay, but
that's where I was going with it.
Like, I build like a DRSSTC so it could do basic music stuff. And, of course, I live on acreage. I've got a dedicated ground rod in my yard and a 100 amp 220 service that I can just run a cord for. So, and we've built big coils. The only coil I have left is my little analog coil. It'll do 2.5 foot arcs or so, but it's just not properly tuned. I need to build a new capacitor bank for it, but that is totally irrelevant. Something that once we get to more of a DIY channel, which I think is kind of the move I want to make for what we're doing, one, it's more fun for me, but, you know, two, it might give me an additional different revenue stream that doesn't immediately involve all 3D printing all the time, which, don't get me wrong, I love 3D printing, but it is a very tough industry to be successful in. And that's something that a lot of people don't know. Like the podcast, not podcast, you dumbass, the live stream that we did, and we have a live stream. I'm trying to do them every Wednesday. Might be tough, but we're trying to do them every Wednesday. I did a live stream where I was going to make upgrades for my cane, and I got to a point, and I'm like, shit. I don't know how to do this. I wanted to wrap the text. I wanted to put 3D Musketeers on like a 3, a D, and MUSKET on the little modules that I was creating. But I couldn't wrap the damn text. I'm like, how the hell do I do this? And people are trying to tell me how to do it in the chat. We had one person from Billy's Discord, actually, that was really vocal trying to help me. But we come to find out that the font that I was using, which is ASA font, because open source font, was not a CAD font. Which means when I got it to a certain size, it was a pain in the ass, yada yada. Lo and behold, I had to make it a second try. So we'll see. You are seeing this episode of this podcast after I have done the second live stream. So maybe it went well. Hopefully it went well. If it doesn't go well for some reason, I'm going to drop it, and I'm going to redesign on live the part for my dad that I showed off in the last live stream. And just to kind of show, it doesn't have to be crazy specific. I hear noises.
It's moving around. It's detached.
Not fully. It's
sliding around. I can see it going.
It's a bed slinger, you ding dong. That's what it does. It's supposed to move.
Yeah, see, I was just trying to psych you out. It's not that I couldn't see very well or anything.
Yeah, no, totally. There are some because it's really thin, I'm going to have to go in and thicken it up, most likely, to print it again. Yeah. But, oh well, I mean, look, that's the deal with 3D printing. It's not always perfect, and that's why we're glad that printer materials are not so incredibly expensive, because, good lord, that would make it, you know, just really, really tough. But yeah, guys, this was a lot of fun. I'm glad we got the both of you on, and both Al and I are like, damn it, we don't have Thomas. What do we do? And I'm like, I'll put a call out and I'll see what happens. I'm like, wait a minute. Peter Sassaman wants to talk to Alan. We got to make this happen. And we're going to do it live on the Making Awesome podcast.
We're going live.
Are we at the end, or could I show?
You can show more stuff. Yeah, we were at the end, but hey, we can keep going.
I was just going to share the two hand parts in Fusion, if that's okay.
Sure, do it.
Okay. Yeah. Share. Okay. Let me move this. Okay. So yeah, this is one of the two possible kind of glove designs. So this one would kind of be more like jointed and secured onto multiple points.
I like that, but I need infinity stones in it.
Yeah. And then this would be more like what I showed the physical one, but with like actual like cams kind of to press down on these to hold them into place instead of screwed in. I don't know if I can zoom in. Oh, I can kind of zoom in. Okay, there we go. Yeah.
You can use like Alt and Control to move around.
Cam.
Yep.
Oh, huh.
It's your normal computer. You're just sharing the screen with us.
Yeah, I just don't have a mouse. I'm more familiar moving around 360 with a mouse than with a touchpad.
I think it's kind of tricky with a touchpad.
Yeah, so this would just kind of be like a cam lever to pull up this bolt and hold the aluminum part in place. But then it would like slide through just like a channel in the top to move it forward and back.
Oh, okay. So it's similar to like a quick release on a bicycle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of some of the inspiration.
With aluminum Lego bricks, which I think is phenomenal.
That'd be nice with this design, is I could actually have another point further back on the finger with another tube. And so with like a slightly heavier backpack and a larger tube coming to the hand, it could actually pull on the fingers at 2 points. So
is that what that first glove does, or no? It's just allowing you more freedom because it's got multiple joints.
This one would just not have like Wolverine claws coming off of it. But this
Looks better,
one
but
would actually potentially be able to have pulling on the finger at 2 points to handle both of the types of movement on the fingers.
Yep, that makes sense, because if you do it that way, you can have the simulation of holding something in your palm versus holding something at your fingertips.
And,
right.
Here's something maybe you thought of, maybe you didn't. We have a client of ours that give me just a second, that has MS, and he actually does racing quads as a means of dexterity training.
Right.
This could be something similar to where, you're doing a force training, but it can be, okay, you need to squeeze the stress ball, but the system's going to react against you. Then you can get it covered by insurance, homie. And that's
Yep. Honestly, like I know at least 2 people that could benefit from this as a training tool.
Yeah, I look at that and say, man, there's so much more than just VR. I think the scent one, that one might be interesting. Maybe for what's the thing where they're doing like taste testing and they need to like take palate cleansers? A Cilia could be used very much as like a palate cleanser for something like that. But I think this one,
put it up with a coffee smell to kind of clear.
Yeah, like to reset the senses. It's a common problem in the vaping industry where you get your taste buds dull out. It's why a buddy of mine can eat a ghost pepper and not hate himself, and why most people can't get near one without crying. Because he slowly, basically annihilated his taste buds. And he can still taste things, but his favorite thing is to go out to like Indian restaurants or Japanese restaurants and say, I want it native.
Oh.
And they bring it out and he's like, no. I want it native. And they're like, are you sure? He's like, oh, I'm sure. And he's like, all the cooks, everyone's like peeking out, looking at me, and I'm just staring at him, eating it. I'm like, and that's cool. But it worries the hell out of me, right? I'm like, what are you missing in flavor? Apparently, he's not missing a ton. But, not
well,
not
that's pretty subjective, so it's kind of hard to really say.
I mean, that is fair.
Just thought of another use case as well, which is when you're doing wine and cheese tasting.
Yeah.
Not just for the clearing of the palate, but also for enhancement.
I dig it.
Because you can have complementary flavors coming through your auditory senses that completely change the taste of something.
Get on the phone with Napa, damn it, and not Napa Auto Parts, Napa Valley, and make it happen.
It's about 20 minutes for me.
It is about 20 hours for me.
20? I thought you're closer to like 3 days.
I was thinking like on a plane to LAX and then driving, but
Yeah. No. Yeah. Last trip I took across the country, I drove. So
I was gonna say, could you bomb across the United States in like 20 hours from Florida to California?
No, it took me 26 hours to drive from Texas to home.
Okay, but you're not cannonballing it though, all right?
I did.
Nope. See, do not. We are pleading the fifth. We're pleading the fifth. Plead the fifth, damn it.
Okay, is cannonballing it involved from end to end on the coast, or is it just from where I was to where I was going in one shot?
Cannonballing, the idea of cannonball is New York to LA, and I believe it's in 19 hours right now is the current record.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I think that's an average speed of well over 120 miles an hour. Let me find out.
Got it. So they're talking about mainlining it with top speeds. Okay.
Oh, I am so wrong. It is 25 hours and 39 minutes. And it was set in May of 2020 by Arnie Toman and Doug to boot. Whoops, you didn't tell me you were stopping to share the screens. Hold on. All right, we're good. They did it in 25 hours and 39 minutes with a 2016 Audi S6 disguised to look like a Ford Taurus police interceptor. Yeah, it is incredibly illegal. But there's a great movie about the cannonball, and there's lots of videos on it too.
Which one came first, the actual cannonball or the movie?
I don't know for sure.
No idea.
Apparently, police evasion modifications including brake light killer switches, radar detectors, laser diffusers, CB radio, and roof-mounted thermal cameras. Performance modifications included a trunk-mounted 67-gallon auxiliary fuel tank sourced from the car used in Toman and Taboot's 2019 Cannonball run. So they cannibalized an older car to use its gas tank, modified turbochargers, an upgraded heat exchanger, a custom ECU tuning which allowed engine mapping to be changed for on-demand to suit either 91 or 93 octane fuel, allowing the car to generate an estimated 600 horsepower. The run achieved an overall average speed of 110 miles per hour, with average speeds upward of 125 miles per hour across some states, which at no time exceeded 175 miles per hour. These people literally will charter planes to follow them and look ahead to make sure they're not getting into some stuff. There's so much about it. Ed Bolian talks about it on his YouTube channel. If I remember, we'll put the links in there. I'm going to put Cannonball talk.
What if... I mean, this would probably never happen because there'd be so much that would have to be done, but could somebody theoretically with enough money arrange like an official race almost and like basically shut down all the roads from New York to California and like just like maybe one time and have like the world's most famous race car drivers like do it? Like,
all you got to get is municipality support.
All of them
in a line to get there.
So
you need permits, and then you can do it.
So
that'd be amazing.
There are rallies like there's the Bull Run Rally, the Gold Rush Rally. There's a lot of these rallies that occur inside of municipalities. And now there are the big YouTubers that are starting to do their own rallies where, yes, you can actually get police escorts that will shut down highways and let you do dumb shit on it with cars that are designed to go way faster than you're going. The cars can outperform the drivers. But it's very uncommon because of the expense to do so. Normally, you need months in advance. You need to be paying people to staff it. There's a lot involved, but for some of these big car communities, they're driving $500,000 cars. They don't give a shit if it's $10,000 a person. I want to see...
There could be some big sponsors.
Oh, yeah. Big sponsors will come on it. You know, car manufacturers, car modifiers, that kind of stuff go on it. Yeah,
I'm calling it now. Elon Musk is going to try this with his Cybertruck.
Yeah.
It does going to have the range.
Elon sponsor it.
Well, it doesn't have to have the range. He still has to fill it up partway through. We don't never has to do that.
I mean, that's fair. I know Ed Bolian has done. Ed Bolian was, I believe he was a Cannonball winner.
They'd probably want to add it back in the swap battery if they were going to race the Cybertruck.
Mm-hmm. Have things prepped along the way so they could just hot swap it.
That's fair.
Yes.
Okay, so some of the previous people we had, in 2019, there was a team with Arnie Taman, Doug Taboot, and Berkeley Chadwick did it in 27 hours and 25 minutes. In October of 2013, which is when Ed Bolian with Dave Black and Dave Hung set a transcontinental record of 28 hours and 50 minutes in a 2004 Mercedes-Benz CL55 AMG. But the first one was for the outright continental was Alex Roy, David Mayer, and filmmaker Cody Wellis did it in 31 hours. And I think that was, so they did a documentary in 2019 called Apex, the Secret Race Across America. And I'm reading the Wikipedia page for those wondering about the Cannonball challenge. We have something similar in the 3D printing industry where it's who can print the fastest benchy, right?
Yep.
And I personally think it's kind of stupid, right? I get it's like for bragging rights, but like what's the point, right?
The same reason we try to go to 5 gigahertz on our Intel processors.
Yes, as the guy that overclocked his computer. Yeah, I guess I don't really have room to talk, do I? Shit. I mean, but either way, at some point, right, with the cars, you can make cars go faster. Your limitations are not how fast the cars can go. It's how quickly you get caught, is the problem. With benchies and printers, it's how stiff your motion platform is, how much heat you can pump into the filament, and then if your control board can physically handle sending G-code that fast. That's something that people don't realize is that's a lot of information that you need to send to a control board very quickly.
Yep. You gotta turn your deviations down.
Did you mention like really stiff rails?
Oh yeah, you can't have an ounce of flexing on it. It will not function.
Nope.
Yeah.
The Voron community is most famous for having a hard-on for this kind of thing. You know,
it's funny considering they kind of scoffed at my sensor back when I tried to bring it over to them.
The Voron community, I love them and hate them at the same time. I think they make some of the coolest printers on the market. And by the way, I don't know enough about Voron to talk about it. Alan, do you know enough about Voron to talk about it or no?
I know bits and pieces, and I met the design team a little bit here and there, but like
they're custom open source 3D printers, right?
Yeah. I don't remember how open they are. I think they're a little bit less than some other places. But they are basically, you can build it yourself or you can buy kits from us, but it's like we're all like centering around this particular design principle, I think. So
and they come in different sizes, like there's the Zero and then there's like bigger ones.
The Zero is adorable, but it's also $700, and I will buy 2 minis before I buy a V0 because I'm sorry.
Right.
Like guys.
But if you're in production and like you need something solid and like this may be more so for the bigger ones, but like if you needed big prints and you need something reliable, like I think
for sure.
Yeah. There could be an argument for it, though I'll probably wait for the Prusa XL.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah, I think my next big printer purchase that isn't like more minis or more Mark 3Ss is going to be the XL. I've debated on a Daedalus because the Daedalus is a phenomenal machine for the money, but I don't need another big 3D printer yet. And the Daedalus is really not all that much bigger. I think if Joe, which of course we did interview Joe from Project Red or Project R3D, sorry Joe. And that was to date the longest podcast I've ever had. It was almost 4 hours, I think. It was crazy, but Joe and I vibe on just so many different levels, and it was awesome. But you know, the Daedalus is a great printer, and I think it's a much better option than a Lulzbot. To me, a Daedalus is a better option than a Lulzbot because they're right in the same price point. It's a little bit bigger, but it's way stronger. I still think a Prusa is a better value because I can get 3 machines for the price of a Daedalus. 4 machines? 5 machines. 4 to 5 machines for the price of a Daedalus. And that's tough. That's a really, really tough bargain. I mean, if you are looking for something that just freaking works, a Daedalus is great. Vorons are phenomenal, but you have to be willing to put in the time. Right? And so a Voron 2.6 or whatever the hell number they're on right now, they're like $2,000 in parts. Plus all the time you're going to put to build it. You're spending the better part of $5,000, $6,000 by the time you're done, including your time. And it's tough, right? And I've seen the V0s, right? Stefan with CNC Kitchen has one. A lot of the YouTubers are building V0s because they're adorable. They're incredibly fast, but dude, like 120 millimeter print volume, I can't do like 99% of the parts we do not fit on that. Yep. This part behind me does not fit on a 120 cube. It doesn't do it. And that's just for fun.
200 is kind of minimum.
Huh?
200 is kind of my minimum.
It is for me too. I could go like the minis at 180 by 180 by 180. That's still good. I mean, we're pushing it, but I've got an army of Mark 3Ss, so it's really not a big deal for me to have the smaller printers. For me, it's about having more hot ends because you're limited always by how much material you can push through one of these bad girls. And so we have to look at what do we do to make the printers faster? You add more printers. That's the trick is
parallel.
You do parallel printing. But yeah, I think there's a lot here, and I love that you guys are both kind of on the forefront of different things in the industry together. It is so cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, guys, plug yourselves real quick, and then we're gonna end this off unless you got anything else you all want to share.
No, it's fine. I'm Alan. I'm from Pyr0ball PCBs, doing business as Circuit Forge LLC. You can find me at Pyroballpcbs.com. Documentation for my sensor is available at docs.pyroballpcbs.com. There's also on that page a link to my Discord and a little video about explanations on how the sensor works. There's lots of information about how the sensor is used and how to integrate it and all that there. So feel free to come on by. I'd be happy to talk to you and answer any questions you have and see if I can help you out with your problems.
And Peter?
Peter Sassman from Haptic Solutions Incorporated. You can look hapticsol.com, or it might be easier hapticsolutions.net, hapticsolutions.org.
Everything's going to be in the description. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, ciliavr.com. You can find us on Twitter, YouTube. You can also find me, Peter Sassman, on Twitter. Yeah, if you find me there, feel free to join the Discord as well. Yeah, great to meet you, Alan, and yeah, awesome.
We always have fun, and of course, I'm Grant with 3D Musketeers. If you are looking to get something badass made for your badass project, you can reach out to us at 3D Musketeers. Links will be in the description down below. Gentlemen, thank you very much for coming. Peter, thank you so much for hanging out with us, especially on crazy short notice. We greatly appreciate it, and yeah, stay safe out there, everyone. Don't forget to call your loved ones. And as always, keep making awesome. This was Chapter 33. Talking about Pyroball PCBs, Haptic Solutions, and some random shit in between. Have a good one.